Welcome everyone to another episode of Dice and Brushes. Today we are unveiling what's inside issues 28, issues 28 through 31 in the Warhammer Imperium magazine pack. I am trying out a different camera setup, so have some patience with me, please. Right. Without further ado, we'll get right into it. We got some lore on some Necron warriors. We have the sheet in case you're doing a crusade. A little bit about the Necron tactics of the Relentless March, how it looks from a lore perspective specifically. Blackstone, Shadows Upon the Stars. Pay special attention to Blackstone since that's getting a little more attention in the lore now. You got a little bit of lore on the Skitarii legions. A little bit more on their weapons right over there. And for those of you who have already seen previous episodes, you might have already seen multiple videos showing the how to build the Necron warriors. Then for the rules section, we start into getting into unit coherency, what engagement range is, the battlefield itself, terrain types, a little bit of definitions on what everything is, what's a hill versus what's area terrain, what's considered an obstacle, buildings like the set that is included in issue number 31. Then it goes over the in-depth on the terrain rules. And then over here, I do like how I don't care that it's gold or this bronze color, but they do have the highlighted the actual photos of the terrain pieces which have come in the Warhammer Imperium magazine so far. And it goes over the keywords for each of those, including that nice little plasma generator. Then over here we have the new, I shouldn't say new game, the new mission that they have in this. This time it is Necron Overlord with 20 warriors against a Primaris captain, or sorry, lieutenant, against 3 aggressors and 5 assault intercessors. And it very roughly shows you terrain layout. And now that somebody who doesn't have the main rulebook and is using this to learn, this would be their first time starting to use the actual terrain rules, now that they have them defined. And it also shows what is upcoming. So, in this pack we have Part A of the Necron Warrior Sprue, which has 2 Scarab bases and 4 warriors. And after a nice little transition, I'm sure Brett will add it in, we'll go into the next pack. And then after that, we have one more large fold-out of lore. Beautiful, beautiful lore. War for Blackstone. Another just short story there. A little bit about Necron. How do I say? Necron necropolises? Necropoli? I don't know how you would want to say it. We got a little bit about the forces of the AdMech into this old battle, which again, I believe it was part of the, was that 7th or 8th edition starter set? I forget which. Of AdMech versus Necrons. I think that was 7th edition. I'm pretty sure that was 7th edition. Then we'll be right back, and after a nice transition, I'll have issue number 30. Alright, and now that we're back again, now that we have issue number 30, it comes with Mephiston Red, probably one of the more useful colors to have in your arsenal. Then we have Morphane Brown. This is particularly good as a base for the leathers. Then let's get right into the magazine itself. We have a little bit about Mechanicus cohorts, which are kind of like their chapters and regiments. Again, give them a name if you're doing a crusade with them. 2 pages worth of Ultramarine successor chapters here. A little bit of the Necron Novak dynasty, which is more of the close combat dynasty for the Necrons. A little bit about the Dark Age of technology and the AdMech, how they don't really see the difference between a relic of the past and like a holy relic. So they'll see it explains why they see a piece of ancient machinery and see holy relic. And a bit about explorator fleets and what happens to those in the Imperium who have Xenos technology. And it shows you how to use your new Mornfang Brown on a few of the models that you've already had, if you've been following up with the magazine. A little bit more of the Mephiston Red on the cloak, and then it goes more in depth with the stuff you've already done. And if you've been following along, this is how some of your models should look now on the Space Marine side. Then we have some of the data sheets for the Necrons. Then we have a sample, I don't want to say sample mission, but a quick explanation about how the Necron plasma sites work for the Skopek destroyers in Necrons. How they can't be targeted normally, or they sometimes will just die if they're not close enough to Skopek units, etc. We have explanation of the battle round, the various phases within it, a little bit about the command phase, and then the mission decisive engagement. And it goes into more in detail on that. On this one, I will say, I do believe that the Necrons have the advantage in this. Just because 1 Overlord, 10 Warriors, 3 Skopeks, and a Plasma Site, versus the Lieutenant, 5 Assault Intercessors, and 3 Aggressors. Honestly, the Aggressors are the only thing that's hard to kill inside of the Space Marine section here. So, I'm not really a fan of this particular mission. But, again, at the very end, I do like that they're doing this. They're showing, again, what's coming up. Speaking of which, you'll see issue number 31 coming up here. If I can stop the video for a moment. Alright, and finally, here we are with the last issue of this pack, 31. This one comes with one of the Manufactorum buildings, little piece of area terrain. And this was also in one of the previous Kill Team terrain sets, which we have already used on the channel for some of the battle reports. In fact, we use it quite frequently because it is a beautiful terrain piece once it's all painted up. So I'll just put that out of the way for the moment. And then inside the magazine itself, go figure there's going to be some Blood Angel focus in here. We have a beautiful picture of the terrain piece already completely painted up. A little bit about the rules for it, some lore mainly is inside here. But we're starting off with the lore. Of course, if you're in a crusade, naming little sections of the terrain, you might call it like battlefield sectors, I think is what they have it as here. You might actually name them. A little bit more, the things that you might see in lore of a war-torn battlefield sector. Again, if you're making a crusade, there you go. A little bit of information about the Forge World Lucius and the Titan Legion that goes with them commonly. Then we have a little bit about Forge World. See, I'm not quite sure how to pronounce that, but I'm pretty sure it's somewhere along the lines of Agrippina. And it has a little bit about the War of Cadia and their involvement. Now we have a fair amount of lore about the Blood Angels and their war against High Fleet Leviathan. There's a little bit more about the oldest chapter master currently alive, Commander Dante. I say chapter master because he's not the oldest space marine currently. A little bit about the flaw and how they're basically space vampires. So if you like having your space marines also be vampires, there you go. Here's the section on how to build your new ruined manufactorum. And then, of course, how to paint your new ruined manufactorum according to how it is on the box art here, or the pages out front. Anyway, like right here, there's a lot of dry brushing, and I do mean a lot. Like some of these are shown 3 or even 4, I think, layers of heavy dry brushing. It even tells you there's more paints to come, so this is not, for what paints you have received, this is how it should look. There are more paints to come, so don't worry about that, because it should eventually have more of a cream color to it, I guess you'd want to say. It shows you about area terrain, how to actually define an area terrain. So, oops, let's go that way. What is actually on or within area terrain, moving through terrain, how different models actually interact with that terrain, whether they be infantry being inside, on top of, or even monster outside. Even though this has fly keyword due to the breachable, although fly, he could move here without any problems. Charging is another issue. I do like how they explain that. Then we have a lot of rules about the movement phase. Not quite all of them, but pretty much all you'll need to know for most games of 40k. And then mission urban warfare. This one is actually, I would say, pretty even due to the forces involved. For Space Marines, you got 1 lieutenant and 2 units of 5 assault intercessors. And the Necrons have a single Royal Warden, 5 Immortals, and 10 Necron Warriors. So one side is very shooty, one side is very assault. And it ends up kind of working out with the terrain layout that they have here. I actually like this one. This is one of the missions that I like because it is even, I should say. And finally, on the back here, shows that what's in the next two issues. Issue 32 will have the Cataphren Breacher slash Destroyer kit. And then after that, it will have Raglan Flesh Shade and Cryptek Armor Shade Gloss. I've never used the Cryptek Armor Shade Gloss before, so that'll be something nice new to try on all of my Necrons. And if you're thinking about getting into 40k, I highly, highly recommend getting the full magazine. Just go for the full premium. It's much cheaper than what you would normally do for just buying all of the models that are in here. And you can just, whatever you don't want, you can just sell off typically to your local game store, your friends, or even on eBay. And if not, you know what, maybe you dip your toe into multiple factions, especially between Necrons and multiple Imperium type factions. Just dip your toes, see what you like. Kind of basically get your own rule book and no nonsense on it. So even if you're, especially if you want to collect Necrons or Space Marines primarily, highly, highly recommend this. If you are going for Sisters Battle or AdMech, less so, just because there's not as much that's going to be coming in. So I don't think that if you just want to collect one of those two armies, I don't think that the Warhammer Imperium, buying all of it, I should say, would benefit you. I would say just wait till those specific issues come out, and then just buy those issues. And as soon as we get them in the mail, we'll try to make videos and try to put it out as soon as we can, just like this. And as we say to you guys every time, get your stuff painted.